I have some exciting news for all of our listeners. We just launched a Patreon. If you like the show and want to support us, you should check us out at patreon.com/onwildlife. For just $1 or $3 a month, not only are you helping keep On Wildlife running, but you'll also get additional perks like early access to episodes, Q&A bonus episodes, personal shoutouts, and more. Again, that's patreon.com/onwildlife. We truly appreciate your continued support of the show. Now back to the episode. Hello, welcome to On Wildlife. I'm your host, Alex Ray. On this podcast, we bring the wild to you. We take you on a journey into the life of a different animal every month, and I guarantee you're going to come out of here knowing more about your favorite animal than you did before. In this episode, we're talking about an animal that we've discussed before, but they're so amazing and interesting, we had to do it again. And they may possibly be one of the most misunderstood mammals on the planet. In order to get a better understanding of them, I sat down with Lauren Arthur, a zoologist who has spent years educating people about wildlife. She's been featured on a number of channels, including Nat Geo, WWF, CGTN, and Disney+. So join us as we head to the savannas and grasslands of Africa to talk about spotted hyenas. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm good, Alex. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for coming on to the show. I'm so excited to talk to you about hyenas.
Yes, well, that's the one thing I love to talk about, so I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we get into hyenas, can you tell us about your journey to becoming a wildlife biologist and what kind of first sparked your interest in wildlife?
It's quite a convoluted journey, but to be honest, it was from a very, very early age. I grew up on the east coast of Scotland, so the North Sea is right there. So I actually had quite a close upbringing to the sea. And I was obsessed with sharks from a really, really young age. So when most kids are playing with, dolls, Barbies, I was that tomboy that was just super into sharks and bodyboarding and being near the ocean. So that kind of stayed with me through life, actually, and led me on to do marine biology and zoology at university. So I ended up getting a undergrad and then a postgrad in zoology and marine biology. And I just got really, really lucky on my own little hyenas here. Luna, do you want to come on a podcast? We just rescued a wildcat. So
wow.
She may say hi. And then I got really, really lucky when I was doing my master's. I got the opportunity to go to the Maldives to do my thesis to study whale sharks. And that was really the beginning of everything. I ended up doing really, really well there and working in the Maldives for 8 years.
Wow.
So I was very much oceanic based. And then after 8 years, I did need to change. The Maldives is home. But it's also a very, very small island nation. So I needed change, and I got an incredible opportunity to come to South Africa and actually work on land, be more terrestrial based, going back to my zoological roots rather than my marine roots. So that was a big challenge. It was a big shakeup, but it was absolutely what I needed. And I've stayed in South Africa. I'm now married to a South African. I have a little cat and I'm 6 months pregnant. So that's the journey.
That's amazing. And you are the director of operations and head naturalist at Two Wild. Tell us a little bit about that organization and what you do there.
Yes. So both my partner and I, we ended up in wildlife film, which is crazy because it's not ever anything that I thought I would be doing with my life. But I ended up working on a live TV show called Wild Earth for over 6 years as a wildlife biologist. So basically, we were in a part of the Greater Kruger National Park. And I'm just on TV teaching people about animals from anything. I'm talking from insects to birds to ecology to, the trees, to, of course, the hyenas and the much bigger animals. And it was the best time of my life, really. It really was. But again, everything has an end date. And I needed a bit of a challenge after 6 years. So my partner and I got a really lucky opportunity. He's a filmmaker. I'm more the biologist, to actually start our own thing here in the bush. So we actually live in the Kruger. Crazy life. And yeah, we teach people about wildlife film. We make documentaries. We try and, film everything that's going on around us nature-wise. And that's too wild. So you can actually come and stay with us and learn how to film wildlife, which sounds a lot easier than it actually is.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. And I feel like the best way to learn about wildlife and the specific animals is to just be in it, just experiencing it firsthand.
Absolutely, absolutely. Textbooks can only teach you so much. Of course, textbooks are important, but I think really just experiencing it is super important, and it makes people care more. And, we've created memories that last a lifetime here. So Too Wild is in its infancy. It's just a year old, really. So it's just a baby, and it's growing and doing very well. So we're very proud of it.
That's great. And speaking of freeze, can you tell us about any memorable experiences you've had interacting with hyenas?
That's so crazy, because everyone asks these kind of questions. I never would say I ever have interacted with them, but when observing them, yeah, so many. We were very lucky that where we work, there was a clan. The social unit of hyenas is called a clan. And they were very accessible to us to film. So it was very, very easy to film them and just watch them from a sort of really responsible distance and just learn. So I learned every single member of that clan, of whose mother to whose grandmother, whose great-grandmother. I knew the clan inside out. And some people may disagree with me out there, but you definitely pick up on their individual personalities, traits that they have. I used to sit and watch them for 8 hours a day for months on end. We filmed the most incredible things from mating. It's really quite unusual to see hyenas mating. We managed to film that. We managed to film 1-day-old cubs, which is another real, that was very special. I cried on live TV. I was this female, I have a tattoo of a hyena right here. Her name is Ribbon, and she was the matriarch at one point, and we followed her for a very long time, knowing that she was pregnant and that she was going to give birth any minute. And we found the den, and we got to see the cubs and then follow the cubs' journey. And yeah, I think that whole experience of following Ribbon was probably my most memorable time of my life. That's why I decided to tattoo it. She's iconic and such a legend, and I think that was... yeah, it was very, very special. But I would never say interacting. I think it's really important that when we are in the wild, you are just very much an observer, and you just watch and interpret what you can to our limited understanding.
Yeah, that's a great distinction to make. And yeah, it's important to know that keeping your distance is important for your safety, but also the animal safety as well.
Yes, 100%.
And you were talking a little bit about matriarchs, and I would love to hear a little bit more about the social structure of hyenas.
It's actually incredibly complex. I think a lot of people really misunderstand these animals. Really, they have a terrible reputation from Disney, The Lion King, even Hemingway way back in the day. It's not a new thing. It wasn't all Disney. Yes, they're predators, just like a lion and a leopard. But I think their body shape and everything about them, the fact that they have this giggle, that it is quite bizarre. And I think that just makes us find them repulsive. Whereas when you actually spend time with these animals, they are the most, there's a scientific paper that's came out recently that says their intelligence rivals that of primates. They are remarkably intelligent, and their social structure is so complex. So they are a matriarchal society. So just like elephants, really, the sort of one at the top is the matriarch, which also means that it's a female-dominated society. So really, to be a male hyena, to be honest with you, it must really suck. It's not going to be fun. It's all about the females. And it's very much ranked in a hierarchy, and it's a bit of a silver spoon effect. You are sort of the same rank as your mom. So if your mom's high ranked, you're going to be born high ranked, just like the royal family. And there's a hierarchy, and you know where you sit in that. And if you're at the bottom, you're not going to have the best of life. It is definitely going to be a lot more challenging to you. But if you're at the top, then hey ho, it's great. Of course, the matriarch's right at the top, and she really, I guess, the point of having a matriarchal society for hyenas would be guessed for control. I mean, these are incredibly powerful animals. And imagine if they were just running amok and there was no sort of society. So that would be my guess as to why it is that way. But they're just so misunderstood. You know, they have so many different vocalizations, up to like 14 different vocalizations, and they can each recognize every single vocalization of every single member of the clan. And I mean, that requires a lot of, you know, mental capacity right there. And the clan that I followed was about 20 strong, so it's very small. But I got the chance to go up to the Masai Mara and study another clan, a really famous clan called the North Clan, who was led by Waffles. And they were 88 strong.
Wow.
So that was, so 88 times 14, I don't even know what that is. I've got baby brain, but it's a lot. It's a lot of, you know, voice recognition. So their capacity, their maternal instincts, their family bonds are just so strong. And I think it's really overlooked when people think of hyenas.
Absolutely. And just to have that complex social structure requires intelligence, knowing where you stand.
Oh, yeah, you have to. It's survival. Hyenas can be very aggressive to one another. So you really need to know where you stand on that hierarchy or you'll be in trouble.
Definitely. And you were talking about their vocalizations. So do you know what the purpose of the specific laughing vocalization that we all know hyenas for, what that really means?
Yes and no. I'm always very hesitant of saying a guarantee thing when it comes to the animal kingdom, because all that we know is our perception. Or, you know, we're so limited. There's so much we don't see, we don't hear, we don't smell, we don't feel. We're blind and deaf to a lot of stuff that goes on. But it is sort of commonly known that giggle is actually quite a nervous sound. So that's why the term giggle, it kind of misrepresents the sound, because to us, giggle is laughter, is happiness, you know, hee, 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 hee. It's a joyous sound, really. But in hyenas, it sounds like a giggle, hee, but it's actually when they're quite nervous or they're uncomfortable or they're under attack. So it's not such a positive sound as the word giggle may have you believe.
If you're a pet owner who wants real talk on training, behavior, and everyday life with animals, check out the Fresh Patch Podcast. Hosted by Drew and Gabe, we cover the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. So wherever you listen, search the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it.
That's really interesting. And I feel like that goes with a lot of animals where we impart our own assumptions onto them about what, you know, they might be doing, like a chimpanzee smiling, for instance, that we think, oh, that they're happy, but that's not necessarily what that means.
I mean, we do it all the time, and it is literally human nature. Like, we can't help it. We only know what we know, and we're limited by our understanding. So, of course, we're going to project our feelings and our thoughts onto the animal kingdom. And yes, it is technically wrong, but it's really the only way that we know how. Yeah. And at the 12th film course, I actually teach phenomenology, which is a branch of philosophy that has been utilized and applied to the animal kingdom. And I'm just utterly fascinated by it. It's a completely different take on how to look at the animal kingdom. So you're taking yourself out of your human realm, out of your human box, and trying to look at the animal through the animal's perspective as best as you can. And also just to understand that there's so much we don't know. We're learning every single day. And I think that fact alone, if everyone could just adopt that and understand that, it would make a big difference to the way that we treat animals. We literally know nothing. There's a marvelous kingdom out there, And we only know what we see. We're very visual animals, but there's so much going on that we don't know. So I think it's really important when you do talk about animals just to always, put that pinch of salt in, that nothing is a rule.
I love the thought of removing our human assumptions when we're looking at animals. It can really help us understand them better when we take away our biases. Let's take our first break, and when we get back, we'll hear about some very interesting adaptations that spotted hyenas have. On today's episode, I want to give a shout out to Henley, Berkeley, and Andy. Their favorite animal is the Gila monster, which is the largest lizard species in North America. Did you know that they spend 95% of their time underground? If you want us to give you a shout out on an episode and you want exclusive On Wildlife content, you should sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/onwildlife. Okay, now back to the episode. Can you talk about some of the adaptations that spotted hyenas have that allow them to survive in the wild?
Yeah, this is such a topic that some people cringe at, but to me is utterly fascinating. Their reproductive biology is just absolutely mind-blowing. They were thought to be hermaphrodites a long time ago, which is completely wrong, but also maybe understandable why people thought that. So both the male and females have identical looking genitalia. So the males have a penis naturally, but the females actually have a pseudopenis.
Oh.
And it looks identical. So when you are trying to identify, is it a male or is it a female, it is really difficult to say. And we've got it so wrong in the past. There are things you can look at. And luckily, we were looking at it through a camera, through a zoom lens. So, of course, we had an added advantage. But, I mean, just to the average person, it's I don't know if this is a male or a female, which is why people thought they were hermaphrodites. And they are not. They're completely distinct, two separate sexes. But I mean, Ribbon, my girl, we believed her to be a boy for so long. And then she gave birth. And then we thought, oh, okay, got that one wrong. So that's really challenging. They also have a pseudoscrotum, which I know sounds bizarre, but it also leads to so many questions like, why? Why do they have this anatomy? How did it evolve? And why did it evolve? And we know how it evolved through different hormones, of course, but why? I guess we don't really know the answer to that. It is led to believe that it's a female-dominated society. So by them adapting this really unique and challenging anatomy, the females have the upper hand. So there can be no sort of, sexual coercion or anything like that. The males literally have no power. Everything is on the females' terms. They will only mate when the females say we can mate. So I guess that's the reason, but maybe it's not the reason, and I just think that in itself, when you really dive into the anatomy and how these females give birth and what they go through to give birth, it just gives you so much respect for them. That's probably the highlight of the adaptations, but I mean, there are obviously so much more. They have one of the strongest bites, that even I think stronger than a lion, that jaw that they have. And then of course they have this really strange look about them. It's almost like they're skulking and they've got that sloping back. I think that also works against them in their image, but actually it's an adaptation because they have this hugely powerful long neck, which requires really powerful shoulder muscles to power that neck. And that's for going in and stealing carcasses. So they can literally just pull a really heavy carcass and get a free meal. But in order to offset the energy consumption and be a little bit more energy efficient, they have very weak back legs, very small back legs. So that's where you get that really powerful front, and then that sort of sloping, smaller, size as you get towards the back. And it makes total sense. But when you look at it, it does give them that sort of like, I don't know, that naughty appearance that maybe people make might think that they're bad. So those are two really cool adaptations from my perspective. But there are so many more. They're remarkable mammals.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And again, us imparting our views on them, the hunched back look makes them look like they're up to no good, but it's really it's important for them to survive.
Exactly. And they're not. But again, it's just our perceptions, as is everything.
Definitely. And you were talking about them stealing carcasses. Can you talk about how they would interact with other animals like lions?
It's funny because I've been in the Kruger sort of area filming wildlife now for about 8 years in total. I've moved around a little bit, and it's just so fascinating seeing how everyone has their own little niche that they fit into out here and how they survive. They all have their own, what I love to call superpower. So even if you just think of your lions, your leopards, and your cheetahs, now they are 3 cats. They're classified a little bit differently, but 3 cats all the same. But they're all so different with their own unique superpower, because if they were all the same, then they would just all compete and no one would survive and thrive. So of course you have the lions that are the strongest. My God, they are huge. They are so powerful, but they're not fast and they're not nimble or agile up trees. Then you get the leopards that, of course, when you watch a leopard climb a tree, it's just like, wow, how are you doing this? It's like defying gravity. But again, they're not as strong as a lion, and they're fast, but they're not as fast as a cheetah. Then, of course, you get the cheetah. They can climb trees, but they're not as agile as a leopard. And they're not strong at all. They've not got a lot of power, but they are fast, of course. So that's just an example how everything has their own superpower out here in order to fit into the piece of the puzzle of the sort of ecosystem. And when you watch animals interacting with each other, it's fascinating because actually they're all aware of one another. It's not like they don't know each other exists. So I have worked in areas where spotted hyenas, there are 4 different species, by the way, are absolutely terrified of lions, really, and the lions will kill them. But here you find sometimes hyenas can be quite brave and they're actually not so terrified, and they know how to play the game. They know that the lions will kill a bigger animal like a buffalo or a zebra or a giraffe. And once the lions are finished and they've sort of taken as much meat as they probably can, the lions leave. So the hyenas know if they just wait, don't annoy the lions, don't get involved, just sit and just wait. The lions are going to leave, and then in come the hyenas, and in come all the other scavengers like your vultures, your jackals, to clean up the carcass, which of course is super important. So it is funny watching the animals all ebb and flow around one another. They're all very aware of each other's presence through sense, vision too, but it's definitely not the primary sense in most animals. They can hear each other. A lot of people will say, what will a hyena do when it sees a lion? Yeah, well, they know the lions are there. It's the ecosystem. But it's remarkable to watch and observe and just see, even in different areas where I have studied these hyenas, they will react differently to the same predator or the same enemy, if you like, in different places. It's not the same throughout, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that's probably another testament to their intelligence. And they probably know lions in this area are this way, and in the other area, they would know the lions are different in that way. So they would react to how the lions are acting as well.
Exactly. Observations, learning, behavior is passed down through learning. So if the mothers have had bad experiences, but it is fascinating. It's not always the same. And where we live, there's quite an interesting relationship between leopards and hyenas. Hyenas are just renowned to following leopards. And I'm convinced, I cannot prove this is not scientifically proven, but I am convinced they actually recognize leopards by scent individually, which is really remarkable because one species shouldn't need to recognize another species individually. But I'm convinced it's because they just follow them. They obviously sit under the tree when the carcass is up there waiting for a free meal, which is great. Why not? And they will learn through through sort of doing which leopards drop the carcasses the most. And obviously they're going to follow that leopard. It's just fascinating. There's just so much I can say about what you observe here. And me, I've been in the field so long now and I'm still learning. I never say that I have all the answers. I literally still sit there and always remain teachable. And the wild will always teach you. I mean, sometimes when we say left, the wild will go right. We say black, the wild will go white. So it's a constant learning experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what are some of the issues that hyenas are facing right now?
To be honest, as a species, spotted hyenas are doing well. They're not necessarily endangered per se, and they're not listed on the sort of IUCN red list as in any trouble. The other species are more so. They are a very resilient, successful animal. However, that goes without saying. I think every organism out there is facing issues. Mm-hmm. I think their public image really goes against them. I think they have a huge PR crisis on their paws that needs to improve. And I know a lot of people out there are doing great work to try and combat that. And I do think, these nature documentaries, BBC and things like that are trying now to bring hyenas back from that, Lion King reputation. But they are facing so many issues like other animals, from poaching, from snares. Snares is a huge issue. We rescued many hyenas with snares around their neck, which probably were not meant for them. But a hyena lifestyle and the way that they operate makes them ideal candidates to always end up in snares. And that's a huge problem in this area, poaching. The poachers are obviously probably trying to go after the rhino and whatnot, but the hyenas will end up accidentally caught up. And just really the fact that because people don't like them, because they are seen as dirty and vermin and just horrible animals, people in areas that are not so well educated about them will kill them. So they absolutely are facing their own issues. I really do believe every organism is. And I just think we need to educate people on the importance of them. They are so important. I mean, imagine being out here in the wild where I live and lions are killing every third night, dead carcass, and nothing comes to clean that carcass up. Can you imagine the smell, the insects, the disease? I mean, they would begin to spread. Obviously, there are vultures and jackals and there are other scavengers, but imagine if none of them cleaned up. It would be horrible. No one would ever want to go on safari. So what they do is so important. And I think that part of the nutrient cycle isn't spoken enough about, the function that they perform out here. So I think those are probably the biggest challenges to hyenas, spotted hyenas right now.
Definitely. And scavengers really get a horrible name because we think of them as dirty, gross because they're eating carcasses. But if they didn't do that, then the entire landscape would be gross and dirty. Yeah,
it's gross. And vultures, I love vultures. I love them so much. They're great. People think they're dirty and they're gross. And I wouldn't want to be pooped on by one, but they're actually incredibly hygienic animals. They're very clean. So they're not recognized for that. Yes, they do put their head in carcasses, but then they really, really clean themselves. They bathe. And it's not fair to call them dirty because lions are also eating that carcass, but yet no one thinks of them like that. So it's what we call the panda effect from the sort of WWF logo. It's a great logo, but that panda, people are more attracted to your lions, your leopards, your tigers, your dolphins, your pandas, than they are about saving, the giant mole rat or hyenas or, the ugly five, which is such a terrible term. Mm-hmm. So, the panda effect has us all. And I think that really needs to change. There are so many species out there that need our help, but they maybe aren't as cute or as lovely as a lion or a leopard.
Yeah. And what is something that the average person could do to help hyenas?
I think just educate yourself, really. It's been such a journey, on the wildlife TV show. I didn't know much to start with. Yes, I studied zoology, but I didn't really know about hyenas per se. And that was a journey that I went on to also learn. So of course I did textbook learning, but then I was in the field. So I was able to really do observational learning, and I just threw myself into it. My whole wall was covered in every, a picture of every hyena with like lines going to each one, like on those murder mystery boards when they're trying to solve a crime, trying to link this one's related to this one and this one's related to this one, to just try and learn and learn and learn. And of course I got things wrong along the way. To read all the papers, there's very cool websites and tools out there that you can sort of just learn new science. Dailyscience.com is really cool because it just simplifies it all. It's not like you have to sit and read a scientific paper. Ugh. But you can sit and just read a little summary and be like, that's really cool. That's what they discovered about hyenas last week. So I think just to educate yourself, and I know not everyone has the chance to go out in the field. I get that. If you can, there are the TV shows like what I used to work on, Wild Earth. It's still going, even although I'm not there. And you can literally just jump on board a live safari and just listen to the guide and the naturalist just tell you all these wonderful things that you might have not known before. So I think just educating yourself on these topics. I used to have severe arachnophobia, really severe. I was absolutely terrified of spiders. I don't know where it stems from. And then, of course, I came to Africa. The spiders there and extremely dangerous. There's some medically important ones. I just thought, right, the only way for me to survive this career that I've just gone into, where you literally drive into webs and sometimes this massive spider the size of your hand is going to land on your face, is to just somehow combat this fear. And the approach I took was just to learn about them. And spiders are so friggin' cool. There's some species where like the females just cannibalize the males and just eat them when they can't be bothered with them. And the things that they do, they're much bigger than the males, and the things that they do for their offspring. So once you start to learn, you're like, that is so cool. Then when you actually see the animal, although there's an element of fear, you start to also have an element of, oh, wow, you are really cool. And although there are accidents here, people get spider bites, like generally they are not coming after you. They want their own space. We want our own space. So I think I just forced myself to learn all these cool things. And sometimes we do have some spiders in the house. Obviously the non-dangerous species, the dangerous ones we have to remove with the cup and paper methods. But the non-dangerous ones, we just try and name them and just be like, hi, Wolfie. Hi, George. Hi, Albert. And just try and create, these guys are not scary. They're not going to hurt me at all. And they're also eating up all the mosquitoes and all the things that are in my house. So it's a shift in mentality. And I think the only way to do that is to learn.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great idea to name them, just to humanize them a little bit. And yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I truly believe education is the way to, get people to really love animals that we have been pushing away for so long. And spotted hyenas, all hyenas are such misunderstood animals. So I'm so glad you were able to come on here and talk about them with me today. And thank you again for coming on to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and letting me chat about my favorite animal.
I want to thank Lauren for taking the time to share her knowledge about spotted hyenas with me. A lot of us have these preconceived notions about hyenas, which can really have an impact on their conservation. When we take the time to understand animals and maybe even teach other people about them, we can get more people to care about them and want to help to keep their populations strong. In addition to checking out Lauren's website, Too Wild, you should also take a look at African Wildlife Foundation and Ngorongoro Hyena Project, which are both working to support hyenas and their habitats. Thank you so much for coming on this adventure with me as we explored the world of spotted hyenas. You can find the sources that we use for this podcast and links to organizations that we reference at onwildlife.org. You can also email us with any questions at onwildlife.podcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at @on_wildlife or on TikTok at @onwildlife. And don't forget to tune in next month for another awesome episode. And that's On Wildlife.